What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be talking about how to achieve a productive stance. And to keep things simple, we're essentially going to break this down into two main elements. One, we're going to talk about what our upper body is doing, and then lastly, what our lower body is doing. And as always, if you're interested in any of the gear I'm using, be sure to check the description, as there should be some information below. So starting off with the upper body, one thing you want to keep in mind is to maintain a good posture when you're shooting. You don't want to be like too hunched over. You don't want to be too tall up. What tends to happen is if you're just standing straight up, once you draw, you tend to push back a little bit. And with that, once you get to shooting, you're gonna be on your heels, and your heels are gonna be doing this. Like if you feel all your weight on your heels, that's gonna cause some issues once you start shooting faster. You're gonna find yourself doing that. You're gonna constantly having to lean forward. So to mitigate that, we want to just incorporate a tad bit of angle to it. You could call it like a fighting stance, but we're just getting ready to buckle down, kind of like you would a rifle. A rifle, you would like really get into it. This one, we're just making sure our weight is on our toes so that we have our weight forward and we can really get behind the gun and shoot fast without it rising. Another thing to keep in mind with this is what exactly our arms are doing. And everyone has a different way in which they like to grip and like angle their elbows. When I first started shooting, I was big into the pressing like this for the gun, bowing your elbows out. So it looked like really intense, really demanding on the shoulders and on the elbows and whatnot. But I found this was kind of a waste of energy. So I moved to a more relaxed arm positioning. So think of this like a clap. Like if you just clap just naturally, it's kind of like that. We just extend a little bit out. And this is pretty much to the extent in which I'm doing. I'm not locking my elbows out. I'm just keeping a natural position to where I'm not straining and I have free motion to move. And as far as like when the gun recoils, your elbow should act like a shock absorber. You're just maintaining a natural stance, just focusing on the grip pretty much. We'll go deeper into grip in another video, but that's what your upper body is doing for the stance. And now we'll talk about lower body and then mix it all together. So you guys are gonna see me a little bit less in this angle, but I just want you to see my feet and be able to understand exactly what I'm talking about. So one, you don't really wanna just like stand straight up. Like you wanna get into like, you're actually about to like fight. So in this case, I just have whatever my firing side is, that leg is slightly back, feet a little wider than shorter width apart. If I'm going for like a competition stance, you can get away with maintaining like a closer stance. And while you're competing, you're gonna change your stance. Like when you're moving, you might have a weird angle that requires your feet to do one of these, one of these. It's not always gonna be perfect, but if you have the opportunity to set yourself up for success from the start, just go ahead and get a nice wide stance. And the reason we're getting wide is so that we can quickly pivot and really like build up energy. And this is pretty much exactly what you would have been taught in football, like back in high school. If you just stood straight up, you'd shoot, 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 and then you see people doing that. And that's what we want to avoid, because one, it kills time in competitions, and two, it's just not as efficient. All right, so lastly, we're gonna circle back a little bit. We're gonna go back to that angle of the body, as in like how we're standing this way, because I showed you what happens if you just stand straight up, and this is what that looks like for me. If you wanna add a little bit of forward lean to it, all you have to do is just stick your butt out a tad. And I forgot who taught me this, but it was a really good guy on Instagram. I believe he's a GM, but amazing guy, great tips. And he just recommended just sticking your butt out slightly, because this will force you to, one, lower your legs a little bit, because you'll get that natural bend in it. And then two, once you go to draw, you're not pressing backwards, versus if I just stood straight up, you get the point. Record yourself shooting. If you see yourself leaning back, try to not do that. So now we're gonna mix this all together. I'm gonna show you first the incorrect way, and then I'm gonna show you the correct way and some of the differences that you'll notice in between. So for that first one, stood straight up, drawing, I kind of broke down to run, and then I popped back up to finish off. That's what you'll see a lot of people doing when they first start out, but I'll show you the more proper way to move and transition with a proper stance. So the difference here is I'm staying low. I'm not popping back up. And the reason I'm staying low, especially in competition, is because once I finish engaging these targets, there's a good possibility that I'm having to transition somewhere else, and I want my feet to already be charged up in order to move, versus having to do one of these where I start out high, go high again, go high again. So I hope you guys found that helpful, and if you did, feel free to leave a comment and a like below. Be sure to subscribe if you're new, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.